Hi everyone, it's Natalie here, and the spread that I'm going to offer today in this series that I'm pulling together is called the Divine Abodes spread. And I had to think about that for a second because there are a number of different names for this particular set of qualities, really, as much as anything. They are basically the four ways in which we can manifest our inner Buddha. Right? So if we all have Buddha nature, and we do, how is it that we can, what is the positive thing that we can cultivate in order to be more capable of bringing that to the surface, right? So that we create a heavenly abode within ourselves and around ourselves, right? So in our lives, in our relationships with others, in our environment, right? In our interactions, all of it. Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to explain it. So instead of saying, what do I need to stop doing in order to be better? This is saying specifically, what do I do in order to be better at this? Right? What's the action I can take, or what's the thing I can do actively? So the four qualities that we're talking about today are metta, or loving kindness. That's the first one. The second heavenly abode is then compassion, or karuna. The third heavenly abode is empathetic joy. Sometimes, I think when I first learned it, it was still called sympathetic joy. Now I see it translated more frequently as empathetic joy, or mudita is the Pali word for it. And then the final quality is equanimity, right, or upekkha. So let's look at the spread. Let's go ahead and look at the spread. Some of this will be easier to understand once we're seeing it. So here we go. So this is the Divine Abode spread. So up here I've put, all of the different names that you may encounter with it. And then here is the spread itself. So another 4-card. Card 1 is Metta, or loving kindness. Card 2 is Karuna, or compassion. Card 3 is Mudita, or empathetic joy. And then card 4 is Upekkha, or equanimity. So as we look down here a little bit directly underneath the Divine Abode spread, what we can see, this is a direct cut and paste from Wikipedia, mainly for the purposes of just illustrating this to all of you, because it's a little bit easier. And also, I think I mentioned this in my last video, that I have an interest in finding out what you find online when you Google something. So when you Google a Buddhist principle, what is the first thing that people are going to see? Because this tells me a great deal about whether I need to counter something or whether that's good information, etc. So we hear a lot about this concept of loving kindness. I like this definition here from Wikipedia. This definition is that it is an active goodwill towards all. Keeping in mind that none of the Brahma Viharas are worth anything if we're not willing to apply them to ourselves. So they're only as good as our ability to offer goodwill towards ourselves. Then compassion. So compassion comes from the Pali and Sanskrit words karuna. It's the direct result from practicing metta, or loving kindness. And it's essentially identifying the suffering of others as if it belongs to us, as if it's one's own. Then we get to number 3, empathetic joy, or mudita. And it's the feeling of joy because others are happy, even if we didn't contribute to it ourselves. Somebody else is happy because they got a promotion. Even if we didn't contribute to them getting the promotion, or perhaps even if we had hoped to get the promotion ourselves, we might still be able to feel someday a sense of empathetic joy. I would posit, personally speaking, that it's possible to feel empathetic joy for someone who got the promotion that you were hoping to get, while simultaneously, because we maybe recognize that they're very worthy of it, while simultaneously recognizing that we feel heartbroken. And it becomes possible because we have compassion and loving kindness towards ourselves. We know that we tried really, really hard. that cycle of working within these modes allows for a greater sense of equanimity in that situation. So there's an even-mindedness, right? We're not favoring the need. There's no judgment, right? We don't feel a need to judge ourselves because the other person got the promotion and we did not. We can still feel happy for them, recognize that it sucks for us, and hold both of those as equally worthy of our love and goodwill. That's an example of the way in which we can cultivate these ideas and have them working together and interacting with one another. And in fact, this is definitely one of those spreads where I have a sense that we're going to see for sure that all of these are going to relate to one another in a really specific way. You know, we'll see a pattern emerge. If this were something that we wanted to look at or work on pretty regularly, there would definitely be patterns that come up here. So here's how the spread is going to play out. So, position 1 for metta and loving kindness. In what area of my life do I need to develop a greater sense of goodwill toward myself or others? Empathetic joy. What do I need to let go of in order to experience the joy of others as my own? And then finally, position 4, upekkha, equanimity. This is one I have really misinterpreted and distorted and conflated and done all sorts of horrible things with over the years as I've attempted to understand what it means. And that's normal, I would say too, right? That is, all of these are normal. You know, to do that with any one of these rather is completely normal. We're going to do that. So I've mistakenly thought that equanimity was forcing a sense of balance into my life rather than having that balance emerge through practicing things in a way that's helpful. So this is a question that I have found to be extremely helpful in terms of cultivating equanimity, which is, what can I do to cultivate greater impartiality towards the people and situations in my life? So instead of finding something wrong with the person that I'm dealing with at this moment, or with the situation that I'm dealing with at this moment, would it be possible to just remove, take the should and eliminate it? Because that by itself is going to help a lot. Here we are. I would also just say too that where equanimity is concerned, the way that I tended to conflate that and misunderstand it used to happen a lot through the idea that there needed to be some sort of idea of perfect balance in my life. Like if I can just get everything to be the way it's supposed to be, right? Not quite the same as perfectionism, but kind of like a really close enemy or a near enemy of perfectionism, or not enemy, a close friend. I would say close ally of perfectionism. You know, thinking like, oh, well, certain things it's okay if they're not as balanced as others, but mostly everything should be balanced in a particular way. You know, so that I shouldn't have to feel too much stress, or I shouldn't be in a place where, you know, my house is a complete mess, I don't have some of my taxes paid, etc., etc. Okay, right? Things that most of us are going to experience from time to time. You know, is there a way to let go of that and just go, okay, this is happening. Can I just meet it from a place of ease, like what, and rationality, and like, what can I do now? And I say this, you know, not because of, I mean, it's the ultimate way of not spiritually bypassing. And that's the hardest part about it, right? If we're spiritually bypassing, there's a huge chunk of ourselves that we're pushing off to one side and saying, I don't want to look at you right now. The 4 heavenly abodes aren't about pushing the unpleasant away from us so much as they're saying, it's okay. Come here. It's okay. So it's finding a way to have goodwill toward even the most difficult aspect of our lives, of ourselves, of other people. And then taking the compassion that arises from that, you know, and finding what is the thing that needs to take place? What do I, you know, what could I do to make this better? how can I love someone better? How can I love the people around me better? You know, the more these are things that are practiced by embracing difficult things within ourselves, really deep forgiveness of difficulty, of pain, etc., the more easily we're able to have space to bring that to others. If we're spiritually bypassing, we're just going to say, okay, I'm going to act with goodwill towards everybody because that's the best way forward. And then, you know, if something contradicts that, which it will every day, every moment, all the time, we're going to say, no, I don't, that's not part of my worldview. That's not part of being full of loving kindness. So I'm not going to deal with that right now. Or even better, this is one way that it loves to sneak up on me. That, that thing gets in the way of my ability to feel loving and kind and have a goodwill towards everyone around me. So it is bad and it is not allowed here right now. So one thing just became like the good thing and the other thing has to go to hell, right? Instead of saying like, okay, you know what? These two things can come together. You know, by cultivating loving kindness, I can meet that difficult thing that's happening and go, wow, that's really hard. It's okay. I know it's really hard. It's okay. I know this is hard and I know that you're going to be okay and you're going to be able to find a way to be with it. Can you just, you know, what's the thing you need to do to just stay here and not abandon ship? Right? Sometimes that's enough. So there's a lot of talking here and not a lot of reading the cards, but you know, there's a lot. You know, the heavenly abodes will help us find ways ultimately of not suffering. But the way, you notice there's not like an equanimity practice out there. There's not like a, hey, this is how to practice sympathetic joy. All of it starts with metta. All of it starts. It's all rooted in loving kindness. So you will find tons of books and, you know, these online meditation apps and so forth that are going to teach you how to have loving kindness. And there's a reason for that, because it lays the foundation for the other three. If you can meet yourself, your difficult experiences, your difficult moments, even the very belief in many cases, definitely for me, you know, where I started, you know, if you guys had known me at the beginning of this journey, you would have found almost an almost unrecognizable version of me. That's, you know, it's deep work. It's deep, deep work. But that's why. It's not easy, right? It's not going to lead you immediately to this place of loving kindness, but setting the intention and continuing to practice it will eventually yield results. But starting from that idea, I suspect what we're going to see is the way in which all of that starts to weave together and create a little story. So let's take a look at that. So the first one we're going to look at is metta. So in what area of my life do I need to develop a greater sense of goodwill toward myself or others? And I'm just going to shuffle the deck and be right back. Okay, so I've shuffled the deck, but I also realized I forgot to tell you which one I'm using. So I'm going to be using the Numinous Tarot, which is one of my favorite decks, one of my favorite go-to decks. It is so, it is a heavenly abode all its own, I think. It's so loving and so accepting. It's full of equanimity. It's the first deck I really thought of for this particular spread, so it was obviously the right choice. The first one, loving kindness. Okay, so deep breath. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's so crazy. So the Numinous is the card. It's like an extra major that's in this deck. Wow. What was the question again? In what area of my life do I need to develop a greater sense of goodwill toward myself or others? Wow, the Numinous. So the Numinous is a way of, you know, it describes almost the indescribable. That's so the Numinous. Wow, I'm so this is like this is a big one for me. This is a big, like, an admonishment, almost an admonishment. Wow. Yeah. So suffice it to say, we probably need a good definition of numinous here that's concise. I'm not sure if I'll be able to pull that together or not. If I don't, it'll be in the description box below. Lately, a lot of, so the work, I've done a ton of work in the last year, deliberately cultivating that connection with the numinous, right? With that space. And have had so many experiences of it in, you know, in this time period over the last, oh, it's been a while. I mean, really, it started with the runes. It started a lot with the runes. Yeah, it's been like a year and a half. And the trust that I have in that process of being with the numinous is and what it encompasses for me has been growing and growing and growing. And I had an experience this last week where it really, and I wonder if she's watching because I know she found my channel. I met an individual through the numinous, through her contact with the numinous and through my own. And the ability for two people who think of themselves as not being, we're perfect strangers, but there's enough connection in that web, in that web of the unseen, that it found a way to orchestrate a meeting. And because it's not something I can talk about here, other than to say that is how a lot, you know, it has, what it's done, what that experience has done, the effect of it is made me think like, oh, whoa, I had no idea how powerful that really is, right? How powerful that connection is with the numinous and so forth. And so what I'm being told is have more goodwill, have more loving kindness, have more of that. Where it's funny because anytime I think of it, I already have this huge wellspring that comes up. I'll definitely be sitting with that one. So position 2 is Karuna. How may I deepen in compassion for the suffering of others? Okay. Wow. Through my own work. And I'm going to say that that's like my actual manual labor through my day-to-day job. So, wow. Yeah, that's already happening, actually, I feel. The sense of compassion that I get for others when they come in the office, and most people coming into a doctor's office or a chiropractor's office are there because there's some suffering, right? But also working a job that's, you know, where a lot of what I'm doing is, you know, very mundane, very work-a-day. It does develop a sense of greater compassion for other people doing similar work, but maybe work that they don't feel rewarded by, whereas I do feel rewarded by my work. Yeah, I definitely, the sense I have here is through manual labor. Like anytime but I think it's not just my day-to-day job, but like anytime I'm doing hard work that's like physical work, gardening, cleaning, building, anything that's hard. Yeah. So the next one, empathetic joy. What do I need to let go of in order to experience the joy of others as my own? Okay. Oh, shit. So right before I did this one, this spread, I had just recorded another one you'll see soon, and holy cow. Well, that couldn't be more direct, right? You saw my expression. Okay, so I'm going to take this one as, you know, I need to be more aware when I'm not feeling sympathetic joy. What's the shadow that's present that needs to be brought into the light? Let me just reread my own question here one more time. What do I need to let go of in order to experience the joy of others as my own? Or just saying, like, anytime I'm with people where there's joy that's coming up, you know, let go. See that the shadow is there. We don't want to let, you know, keep that shadow out. We want to embrace them. We want to make sure they know that they're welcome and they're loved as well, right? Otherwise, they don't ever integrate as part of who we are and become useful, become an ally. But yeah, to be aware of what are the shadows coming up and how might I, you know, let go of that. You know, what are the perceptions coming with it? Let go of those. Just sit with the joy. Just be with the joy. What's here right now in this moment? Wow. Oh my gosh, this is huge. Okay. And finally, position 4 is Upekkha or equanimity. What can I do to cultivate greater impartiality towards the people and the situations in my life? All right. Wow, so the dreamer of vials. That's the fresh perspective I was talking about earlier. The dreamer in the court cards of this deck is a page. It's seeing, you know, so it's coming to every situation with that sense of innocence, open-heartedness, open-mindedness, and a willingness to just be with people right where they are. So that's the Page of Cups, basically, the Dreamer of Vials. To hold that space and that innocence like a child. Who's here right now? Kind of like I was talking about before. So again, we don't find a lot of surprises necessarily. I mean, there's always a little bit of shock, right? That comes like, oh my God, it came out the way, how did it do that? So let's see the pattern we have. So top and bottom, 1 and 3 came out as majors. Okay, and the 2 side cards came out as minors, or minor and a quart. Okay. Oops, and I just reversed one. So what I'm seeing here is that probably the 2 areas that right now need the most attention or focus is to notice the ways in which I'm investing in the numinous and communicating actively with it foundationally in my life, right? Because remember that loving kindness is really the foundation. You know, from that foundation, we can build the rest of it. Once that's in place, the heart, you know, this hard work, you know, day-to-day work, etc., gives rise to greater and greater compassion. And in order to continue into a place of sympathetic joy, there's going to be some shadows that are going to come up and ask to be seen and noticed. And it's maybe not saying let go of the shadows so much as let go of attachment to them. We get attached to our shadow. And if you don't think we do, think about, you know, I think of this in my mind as like the clown argument or the clown fight, because I used to teach Red Nose. You know, it's that moment where somebody says, it's, you know, I had to work so hard today that I'm just absolutely devastated. I'm so exhausted. It was so emotionally draining. And the other person who's had a similar experience is like, oh, I know. Oh my gosh. I feel so, like, I just feel it all the way through my body. I'm so tired and just, you know, oh, I had the worst experience today because humanity just sucks so bad. People just treated me so bad. Oh my God, I had people treating me so bad. Do you know how bad they were? Oh my God. And it just, you know, that thing. You see it a lot too, I think, with wokeness and with social justice. And I got dragged into that a lot last summer. It can be really pervasive, and you know, shadows like that stop us from meeting things with a sense of sympathetic joy or compassion or equanimity. They usually will come from some place that's got a lot of shadow. What if I'm not being recognized for my hard work? What if I'm not being recognized for what I'm doing that's helpful? What if nobody has any compassion left for me? You know, there's shadow there. So maybe I could feel more joy in my own accomplishments and in my own, anything that I have a tendency not to feel sympathetic joy towards is going to tell me where I need to do that work, right? Suffice it to say, perhaps, you know, that by identifying what are those areas of shadow that have the potential to come up, I might be able to nourish and love on those areas by making a conscious choice to do that. Knowing like there's some shadow there, maybe it could use a little bit more of the loving kindness first. Deep stuff. See, this makes the Four Noble Truths look like, you know, child's play comparatively. So will the Three Poisons. That one's got some good stuff in it, but I decided I'm going to release this one first because I feel like it's a little bit much to go from what is the suffering to here's how their suffering is worse. Let's look at the heavenly abodes, and then we'll go back from there to look at suffering a little bit more. All right. I hope you find this useful, if nothing else. I really, really do. It's offered with great sincerity and a wish and a sincere desire to share the fruit of my practice, the benefit of my practice with as many people as possible. So may it bring you tremendous, tremendous joy and, you know, all of the heavenly abodes, all of them. Yeah. So may you be at ease, may you be peaceful, may you be happy, and may you find compassion wherever you go. All right. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.